This is America's Workforce, the voice of working families in Northern Ohio. One solid hour of fact-finding features, in-depth interviews, informative news segments, and practical consumer reports. Tune in now and every weekday afternoon from 4 to 5 as we stand up for you, your family, and our community. Now, here's your host, Ed Flash Barrett.
Well, we got some good news for Ford workers. Big settlement for minors. Trump now on Newt's side regarding child labor. And today on the broadcast, the latest from the painters and allied trades and the United Labor Agency, celebrating 40 years. Good afternoon and welcome to the Wednesday, December 7th edition of America's Workforce, Labor Radio, 1490 WERE. All right, we have two new guests on the program today. Kenneth Rigmaiden will be joining us. Now, he comes to us from the Painters and Allied Trades. He's Executive General Vice President. Began his career with IUPAT upon graduating from California State University back in San Jose. 1977 was the year. He immediately enrolled in the floor covering apprenticeship training program, the local 1288. He received certificates of completion from the Joint Apprenticeship Training Fund and the State of California Division of Apprenticeship Standards. That was 1980. Remained as a floor covering installer. Following 6 years, he served as an executive board member, trustee, vice president, eventually president of Local 1288. Served as a business rep, business manager of Local 12 in 93, general rep in 96. Got a degree in labor studies from the George Meany Center, Antioch University. Served as a national project coordinator for the IUPAT Job Corps program and was elevated to the position of Executive General VP, Vice President, for the Painters in 2002. As Executive VP, he is the General Administrator of the International Affairs. He assigns tasks to board members and staff. Furthermore, he coordinates national union meetings, conferences, and the General President's schedule. So he's got a lot on his calendar, all right? So Kenneth Rigmaiden, our first guest, we're going to talk about the need for infrastructure jobs, got to rebuild America. And we have a case. We talked about this case with Jimmy Williams some months back, and a sentencing has happened. It involves the owner of Franklin Drywall. Last month in federal court in St. Paul, Minnesota, the guy that ran this company, Philip Joseph Franklin, age 49, was sentenced to 24 months in prison. In addition, the federal government sought restitution in the amount of $3,286,553. You know what this guy did? He stole from the workers' pensions. That's right. To evade reporting and paying fringe benefits for the number of hours actually worked, he directed that employees who work more than 40 hours be paid for excess hours on a separate paycheck at the straight hourly rate rather than the overtime rate, or be paid for excess hours at the straight hourly rate on paychecks marked as other pay. Well, from January through December of 2006, he evaded payment of at least $190,000 owed to the pension and benefit funds. What a snake. What a snake. And I want to tell you something. He's not alone. There's a lot of owners of companies doing this right now. You know what? They're just not getting caught. And they don't have a union like the Painters and Allied Trades to find this stuff out and go after them. That's what we're going to talk about with Ken. One of the things we'll talk about. Let's go to line number one right now and welcome Kenneth Rigmaiden to the broadcast. Kenneth is Executive General Vice President of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. IUPAT.org is your website. Ken, good afternoon. Welcome to America's Workforce.
Good afternoon, Flash. Glad to be here.
Okay, I'm reading your bio. See, you started with the Painters back in the 70s, right?
Yeah. I guess time goes by. The young lions become the old dogs, I guess. But I did, Flash. I started in 1976. Kind of worked my way through the ranks. Started as an apprentice, and I'm a member of kind of what we call our allied folks in the craft. I'm a floor covering installer by trade, completed an apprenticeship, worked my way through the ranks, of course, got involved in my local union because I saw and knew that as a construction worker, if I was going to do that for a living, I needed to have representation, and pursued it, became an instructor in my training program, involved in my local union, worked my way through the ranks as a business representative, business manager, came on board with our international union in 1996 and did various jobs such as running our Job Corps program, which is it's a tremendous program, serving as an assistant to the general president on jurisdiction and national agreements, and elevated to the position I hold now as executive general vice president. And I'm really a testimony to someone getting involved in their union, sticking with their union through thick and thin, and just working your way and getting up through the ranks.
Really good. So you work directly with Jimmy Williams then, huh?
Yes, I do. Jimmy, along with General Secretary Treasurer and George Gallus, we call ourselves the three partners and really pursue this serious business of representing the members that ply our craft.
How many members at the Painters and Allied Trades right now nationally?
Right now, of course, the work picture has really impacted us horrifically, Flash. In 1996 or 97, when I came on staff with the IUPAT, we were about 185,000 members. Today, it's kind of troubling for me to report. Through the bad job, the bad economy, we're down to around 165,000 members in our organization, and working like heck to make sure we maintain those members and even continue to grow.
Yeah, it's a struggle, isn't it?
Yes, it is. You know, not only with folks like Scott Walker, not only with the horrific economy, you also have to look at our legislators, who at many times don't seem to hear what our concerns are and what impacts us as working families. It's a tough job, but, you know, we pursue it with gusto, and it isn't something, Flash, that you can take half-heartedly if you really want to try to do something for the members you represent. As you may know, in talking to Jimmy and talking to our business manager in our District Council 6 in Cleveland, Jimmy Watroba, they will tell you that you have a lot of tough days, but when you get those good days, when something comes together, particularly on some of the topics we're going to discuss a little bit later, it's all worthwhile because you're really doing something for the members that count on you.
Yeah, well, can we mention issue 2, SB 5 here? Because I saw a lot of Painters and Allied Trades T-shirts in some of those rallies throughout Ohio. You guys were loud and proud.
That's the reputation of the IUPAT, and I really have to attribute it to Jim Williams, who kind of like the crafter of our political action program. We've got a great government affairs department headed up by our director, Chris Sloan, and we developed a plan to really do what we do best, which is feet on the street. We've got programs in place in our international union that we push to our affiliates to make sure that, number one, we are not just looking out for guys like me. As we discussed earlier, here I am, a guy with 35 years in the organization, but I know I probably have more working days behind me than I do in front of me. And we continually try, through our community organizing for real economics program, through our Young Lions program, to try to encourage, mentor, and bring in those younger members. I'm hopeful that some of those IUPAT T-shirts that you saw out there throughout the effort in Ohio, that you saw some of our younger members. And that's really what we're about. Not only building something for the current members, but building something for the future. And it all ties in clearly to our own economy in terms of folks working hard, doing a good job for the signatory employers that they work for, getting those benefits, and particularly those pension credits, to make sure that they have a retirement with dignity and are able to enjoy their golden years once they're through working at this tough trade.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Advance in the middle class and have something that you could work for and have a future.
Yes, it does.
Let's talk about jobs. I mean, the number one priority, and I've said this so many times on this show, especially when these lawmakers campaign, oh, yeah, we're going to create jobs. And the first thing they do, they attack people, they attack collective bargaining. But we need to create jobs. We need to rebuild America, and that's where the painters come in. According to the Transportation Department, almost 70,000 bridges, which is 11% of the total highway bridges in the country, are structurally deficient. Ken, why doesn't Congress understand this? I mean, they drive on these bridges every day. I don't understand it. Why can't we get money to repair that and create some jobs?
I got to tell you, when you talk structurally deficient, Flash, let's just go back a couple of years to that I-35 tragedy. That was a bridge across the Mississippi in Minnesota that was structurally deficient.
Right.
And you would think that would send a message. But no, we've got some kind of political shenanigans going on. And I certainly support President Obama. The IUPAT supports President Obama and his efforts at trying to get the American Jobs Act in place. But I do want to say that the IUPAT will continually work across the aisle to try to make something happen, to not only have something that's safe through our infrastructure improvement, jobs, and really when you talk about the battles about the budget and deficits and all of that baloney, it's like the old commercial. We're going to pay now or pay more later.
Right.
So it's time for us to really bite the bullet and make sure that we get these dilapidated bridges, our infrastructure squared up, get some green technology going to save on energy costs and create efficiencies. And we must be able to do that because it not only creates jobs, it makes for a safer environment. And Flash, we did something with our partners in the building trades, the International Association of Iron Workers, just a few weeks ago in Washington, D.C., where we held a news conference under, and it's kind of scary to say, under the superstructure of one of those deficient bridges. And it's the South Capitol Street Bridge, better known, as I prefer to call it, the Frederick Douglass Bridge, going from Prince George's County, Maryland, into Washington, D.C. Fully 60,000 people go across that bridge daily. And if you have something like that collapse, just like the I-35 bridge in Minnesota, you can imagine the horrendous effect that would have on not only the local economy, but even national implications, because I'm sure we have some of our congressmen, we have a lot of folks that work in government. Things would be just in a complete mess, Flash. But we went there to really push that message about safety, pay now or pay more later, and jobs, 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 as it was stated in your opening this afternoon.
Yeah.
If we don't make the effort and support those who support our issues, we're going to be for a real tough going.
Okay. Now, when you met with these members of Congress, did any of them get this? Did they understand what you were talking about? Are we going to have to throw them out and get some new people in there that truly understand what we're into here?
With what we've been going through politically, there are those who do get it and understand it. And I want to be clear on this, Flash. For example, if we talk about the Moving America for Progress bill, kind of known here in the D.C. Metro as MAP 21, there are tens of billions of dollars being negotiated to do just this, to get the infrastructure, to pay now instead of paying more later, and to create those jobs that are so vital to our economy and to the families that we represent. Two folks, Senator Boxer out of California and Senator Inhofe, a Democrat and a Republican respectively, are working together to move that forward. They get it. They're what we call, particularly a building trades Republican, and certainly a Democrat that just absolutely gets it. I'm originally from California, and no Senator Boxer. She's on board. And I am so glad that even with all the acrimony that's going on Capitol Hill right now, she saw fit that it was more than just about her. It was more than just about the Democratic Party. It's about the citizens of this country and trying to keep and trying to do the things to make sure that they remain or at least have an opportunity to elevate to the middle class. Again, your own Sherrod Brown with the Fix America Schools Today program, kind of known as the FAST program. He's the pusher on that, and I'm so glad that he's doing that because it benefits, of course, our most important asset, and that's our children.
You got it.
You look at the stuff in Wisconsin, you look at the bill that we shot down in Ohio, you look at this stuff all across the country, and I just don't get it, Flash. How are you going to not give a teacher the tools that they need to train and educate that most important and precious resource that we have? Because as you know, an earthquake, a tornado, a hurricane, if you don't have a school that's structurally sound, all of a sudden you have a death trap. And just as we talk about the roadways, our bridges, you can probably say the same thing about the infrastructure of some of our schools. And by us having the technology to be able to move forward and do these things, shake the money loose, President Obama, shake the money loose, Senate, shake the money loose, Congress. You private sector bigwig employers, invest. It's only for our benefit.
You got it. Hey, Kenny, I got to take a break.
Okay.
We'll come back. I want to talk about that creep that's going to go to jail for 2 years for robbing workers of their pensions.
I will love to.
I know you will. Kenny Rigmaiden on our live line. He's Executive VP of the Painters and Allied Trades. Also, Dave Meganhart, who's Executive Director of the United Labor Agency. They're celebrating their 40th anniversary. He's our second guest, all on America's Workforce, Labor Radio, 1490 WERE. Kenny Rigmaiden joining us. He is Executive General Vice President of the Painters and Allied Trades, IUPAT.org. Kenny, that's an unusual name. What nationality are you?
Yeah, actually, believe it or not, African-American.
Are you African-American? Okay.
Yes, I am. In Flash, my parents, it's an interesting thing. It's an American story. My parents are both from Louisiana.
Uh-huh.
And, of course, grew up in the segregated South. My mother and father both attended segregated schools in the Lake Charles, Mosport, Louisiana area. And my father, of course, when he graduated from high school, went in and represented our country in the South Pacific during World War II. And my mother caught maybe like one of the first things smoking and got out to California. And it just so happened that they connected up again, connected up again. The families kind of knew each other a little bit in the Lake Charles area, but then he mustered out of the service and they connected again and just had a great life and a great marriage. And of course, I'm a product of that. But that name, I guess, actually is a German name. But it's Rigmaiden. They told me it's dressmaker, but I've never made a dress. I've all floors, but I'm just glad to be here and to be an American, I'll tell you.
And you probably never wore a dress either, right?
And I never did. I must say, no problem with that, but I never have worn a dress, no.
So your dad served in World War II. Can you believe today is the 70th anniversary of Pearl Harbor? Yeah,
that's really something, isn't it, Flash?
Wow.
That's something, again, they talk about the greatest generation. They really are. And what I'm hoping for is that this generation that we're bringing up now is going to be the next greatest generation because we do have our challenges.
You got it. Speaking of challenges, you got to tell me, and Jimmy Williams told us this story, but we have an update here because he's going to jail. I'm talking about Philip Joseph Franklin of Leesburg, Virginia. He's going to jail for 2 years, and he has to pay over $3.2 million, all because he was stealing from workers' pensions. Tell me the story, Kenny.
Yeah, I'll say Joseph Franklin, a.k.a. Creep. Okay? This guy, which unfortunately, when you look at the harsh economy and you look at what we as a union do to represent workers and, more importantly, give them a voice, this is really a sad example and a sad testimony to what people will do to abuse those who are really helping them have a business and have a successful lifestyle. This guy cheated 2, 3, 4 times. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, Flash, not only did he cheat these workers, our members, our drywall finishers that were employed by him, not only did he cheat them on their wages, on their pay voucher, on their take-home pay, he cheated them out of medical benefits. He cheated them out of training contributions. He cheated them out of labor management contributions. He cheated them out of dues to their local union district council. And most importantly, he cheated them out of their pension. That's that $3.2 million that you referenced, Flash. He just had no consideration for these guys, and really what he was hoping was that, number one, his employees, our union members, in this economy were too scared for their job, mm-hmm. and even if they were mad enough to do something about it, counting on them not having the knowledge or the skill or the ability to register their complaint and register their concern. But that's the testimony, and that's the argument for organized labor, particularly in the building trade. These guys, the members, worked, and finally they were getting fed up with it, and they contacted their business representative. And, of course, in terms of either processing a grievance or pursuing it, they found out that what Franklin was doing was so devastating, it was more than just doing a grievance. Because, you know, when you have a grievance, Flash, that's typically the parties coming together to address an issue that needs interpretation. You know, a term in the collective bargaining agreement, well, are we supposed to work overtime? Are we not supposed to work overtime? What's the situation on this particular job? And it's really for the parties to come together and gain an understanding of the collective bargaining agreement and the terms and conditions in that agreement. This was clear cut. For every hour that you work, you're paid a wage and the requisite benefit. He didn't do that. He coerced, cajoled, intimidated his employees to only report a certain number of hours every week, and then offered to cut them what we call a green check, a separate check, and just screwed them, screwed the government, screwed those trust funds, and screwed those members.
How long did this go on?
This went on, in the court documents, this went on for about 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And the thing about it, Flash, when you read into it, and I know that the building and construction trades unions have a unique relationship. Most of our employers are really what we call small businessmen. A typical employer, the average employer in our organization usually has 10 to 15 members working for him. This guy was one of the larger players. I think he had upwards between us and the carpenters union who worked for them and the laborers union, I think upwards of 400 people. So he was a larger player. Mm-hmm. And you can realize this guy, when he figured out how he could cheat, how the economies of scale really magnified for him. And I want to say something that one of our employer partners, the chairman of our pension fund, Art Avalotis, himself a fairly good-sized contractor out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, said, I don't understand it. The best way to be a good businessman, the best way to have a good organization, great employees, is to make sure that they're the best trained in health and safety, the best trained in skills, and have the ability to work hard, and the bid process and the work process will take care of itself. But it seems like we've reached a juncture in doing business where these so-called responsible businessmen, a.k.a. the creep, decide that they're going to cherry pick what rules they want to go by. And if we all played by the same rules, there would be a level playing field, and everybody would be able to work. Those members would have access to a middle-class lifestyle, and the wheel would just keep turning.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of folks in this economy, even before this economy tanked, have that kind of attitude. And that's why we have union representation. We continue to work with our labor management contingency, to work with those fair contractors that understand what union means, that understand portability of work, that understand that the nature of our business goes from work to out of work, but having a group of employers who believe in that, a union that represents those workers, there's a way to share that work among the various memberships of our organization and our employers. Work goes up and down.
Mm-hmm.
But by having these pension plans, by having these health and welfare plans, by having these training funds, our members can remain confident that they can continually get trained in skills upgrading. They can continually be trained in the health and safety that's so important. And our employers can count on a worker that comes ready to go.
Kenny, imagine if they didn't have a union like the Painters and Allied Trades at Franklin Drywall to back them up on this. This would probably still be going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many instances in our organizing efforts that we constantly run across that. We continually run across guys and gals who really don't know what they're entitled to.
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk about, in this instance, this was in Minnesota, in our District Council 82, where I got to give a shout-out to our business manager there, Terry Nelson, who really was the architect of pursuing this case. And incidentally, he's got several other cases pending.
I bet he does.
God bless him. He's really doing a great job. In Minnesota, he has an aggressive organizing department they go after, and that's the continual thing they run across. We talk about prevailing wage. Again, it's the law. Davis-Bacon, federal prevailing wage, Little Davis-Bacon, state prevailing wage, where there's a set wage and benefit required by law, not by the collective bargaining agreement, by law, that these workers are supposed to get. And every time you go on a job, many of those workers do not get that. And it becomes a constant battle. And we know we can't do it alone. And what I was really glad about is the Department of Labor and the Department of Justice, when this horrific case was brought before them, they did have the courage to take it on.
Good.
Because many times, Flash, our members who are our federal representatives, our federal employees, you almost have to serve the case up to them on a platter. And that's why I give kudos to Terry Nelson and his team for really assisting the Department of Labor, assisting the Department of Justice, letting them know where the bear craps, basically, and getting them the information, getting them the folks to testify. If Terry Nelson and his team hadn't taken that extra step, this case would have been nowhere.
You got it. Kenny, I'm going to have to run. I'll tell you, I could talk with you for hours. You're awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And again, Flash, hello, Jim Wetruba and the team at District Council 6 and all working families in Cleveland and the state of Ohio. We love you.
You got it, brother. Tell Jimmy Williams I said hi and happy holidays to all you over in Washington and the painters and allied trades. Take care, brother.
Thank you, brother. Take care now.
All right. What a great guy. Kenny Rigmaiden, General Vice President, Executive General VP at the Painters and Allied Trades.